Hello friends, welcome to Blazor server shopping cart project part 2. In our previous video, we have created this entire project structure. So in this video, we are going to create the admin panel. So here in this pages section, we have to add few pages. So we'll right click on the pages, add new razor component, with this Blazor icon. And let's name it as login page. So we'll name it as login dot razor. Click on add. And we'll add one more for product category dot razor, one for products dot razor, one for orders dot razor, one for stock dot razor. The last one will be a master page where we can add the master settings. So dot razor. So here we have added all these pages. Now in this shared section, we have this navigation menu dot razor. So in this we'll add the make it as dashboard. Second will be for category. Third one will be for products. Then we have stock, orders, the last one will be master. So we have this survey prompt, will delete it, it's not required. So we have created all these pages, we'll delete this counter also. So we have category, login, master, order, products, and stock. Now we'll add the in razor, we have the code section and the design section. So here we'll add the page name, page equal to slash stock. Similarly, we'll do for all the remaining pages. Category, it will be for index, it is slash, which is correct. We'll delete this one. For master, will be master. For orders, okay. And for login, it will be slash login. Now let's run it once. Click on start. So here it is shop.admin. We have dashboard, then we have slash category, slash products, slash stock, orders, and master. This many pages we have created, and the first screen will be slash login. So whenever we log in, whenever we are going to have this login page, we don't want this side menu as well as this upper menu. We only want the login screen, and if the user is authenticated properly, after authentication we are going to welcome the user, and he will be redirected to this slash page, and after that we can show this menu. So for that, what you're going to do is, like in this bodies, this main.layout.razor page, we have this navigation menu and the top bar and the body part. So inside this body part, all the pages are displayed. This is like a master page. So here we are going to write the code and introduce one flag is admin logged in, and let's make it as false. And here at the rate, if this flag is true, then we have to show the navigation menu, and if it is true, then you're going to show this header. And here this will change it to hash, and this target will change it, and this about will make it as logout, and here at the rate on click equal to logout, and here we are going to make it as public void logout. This method we have created here, logout function, so that one click of this button it will call this method, and here we're going to use it using the navigation manager. It's showing errors, so we'll have to inject it, and this navigation manager dot navigate to slash login. So the concept here is like whenever user clicks on logout, he will have to redirect to login page. And is admin login equal to false? So if it is true, then only we have to show this part and this navigation side menu. If it is false, then we don't have to show both these cases, only the body part will be there. Okay, so let's run it once again. So here you can see the navigation menu as well as the header part is gone, and even if we open any page, it will not show. Okay, so this is fine for now. So now we have to work on the login page. So here we have to create the entire structure of login page as well as the model through which we are going to authenticate the login screen. So in this data models, on custom model we have to add new class and make it as login model. Let's make it public. In this class we are going to add few properties. So in this login model we have this using component model.data annotations. So we have the user key, name, email ID, password, and this validation message for email ID, and password is required validation message for password. The next part is we have to go on login page and start importing this using shop dot data models dot custom models and using we have to inject the navigation manager, same as what we did in the master layout page. This navigation manager, where we have to have a div. So inside this we'll add minimum height as 400 pixel. Simply we have created a div over here, and we'll remove this h1 tag. We don't need it. Inside this structure we have this, like in this login.razor we have the design part and the coding part and the libraries and all the classes we are importing here. Okay, so here inside this will create the entire login form design, and the CSS will write it here, style. So we have the CSS, the design, and the coding part. All three we have, all three different sections. Fine. So inside this we'll simply create the design pattern. So here we have one div. Inside the div we have this two more divs. One is the class applied is login box. Inside that we have one more div which the class applied is box. We'll create the class now in this style tag, and here we have this login model. So this login model not equal to null we have written. So what that means is, here we'll create a object of login model, and we'll simply name it as get set. So if this login model is not equal to null, then only we have to show this edit form. Okay, and here this edit form, if we hover on it, you will see that it's a part of Microsoft.ASP.NET Core Components form. Okay, so we are using, it's not part of HTML design, it's part of ASP.NET Core. Okay, and here it's, as the name suggests, edit form, it's just a form. We have this data annotations validator. Then instead of simple input tag, HTML tag, we are using input text, and the first input text is for email ID and the second is of password. Here if you see the bind value, whatever we are going to bind, we are binding it to the login model dot email ID and login model dot password. So we have created this input submit button. So when user submits it, it will trigger this method on valid submit login you click. So we have to create this method inside our code section. So here if you see, we simply will create it as private void login. Let's create simple method which doesn't return anything. Here inside the second div we have created this @alert message. So this is a string message, so we'll name it as public string, and similar get set. We'll name this also the public. Okay, so now all the validation errors are gone. Now let's create the CSS. I'll just simply paste it here. So this is the CSS, simple CSS, nothing complex here. The font family, margin, width, you can experiment and see the impacts. Margin, text align. For paragraph we have used this font size and decoration and color. Simple font size and color for H1 tag. Then we have the box and the width and border and everything, and the email and the password. This two CSS we have applied. Okay, so this classes we have applied over here. Login box. Then we have this email and password, and this BTN summary. It's part of Bootstrap that we have already included in our project. It's by default included in the template. Then we have this alert message. We have used this color here. Now, so we have three sections here: style, the CSS part, the design part, and the coding part. Now here you see, like in this Blazor, we are not using anything like JavaScript and all. Everything is everywhere C sharp only. So we can simply, using one language, we can code it all together. Now let's run it. So I'll press Control F5. So it has launched the URL of the admin panel, and we'll click login. So here you can see, like, it has displayed the entire div, but it is not showing the text box. The reason is like it's null. So we have put a check here, like if it is not equal to null, then only we have to show the text box. So we'll initialize it, protected, override on initialized async. So this method on initialize async is nothing but whenever this component login.razor or any other component, we see it here, like we have category.razor master, any other component, whenever it gets loaded for the first time or get initialized for the first time, this method will get, it's part of our like Blazor lifecycle, component lifecycle. So inside this, what we'll do is, like, we'll create a new instance equal to new login model. Now this is not null, we have created an instance of it. Now let's run it. Control F5. So here if you see, simply we have to click on login, and here you can see the email ID and password, both are displayed. Earlier it was null, so it was not displaying. Now we have added all this placeholder email, placeholder password, all that is showing up here in this text box. So simply we have created this login page design. Nothing much more is expected here. Simple design. And now what we want is, like, when user clicks on login, it will display this email ID is required and password is required. How these messages are being displayed is, we have used this validation message for login model.email ID. So login model, we have created it here. It is part of data models, custom models. We have login model. Okay, it's a simple C# class with added this required. This required is part of, it's a part of system.component model.data annotations. So whatever message we write it here, that same message is being displayed here if the condition is not satisfied. Okay, now if you simply add it some test, like test@gmail.com and test123 and click on login, nothing will happen, but simply these messages will disappear and it won't show up if we simply click on this and password is required. Okay, so we have created a very simple login form. Now on this login.razor, we have to write the coding part of it. So the basic condition is, like, when user clicks on login, and we have to authenticate the user, and simply if he is authenticated properly, if the ID and password are correct, then we simply have to allow the user to log in inside the admin panel. Okay, so here we'll close all the pages, right click and close all tabs. and we'll simply open the login.razor. So before writing anything in the logic login.click, we simply have to create one more class, because whenever user will click on login form and once he is authenticated, there will be one response. So for that we have to create one model. So in this shop.data models, right click on the custom models and add a new class, and we'll name it as response model.cs. And also a class, a simple class, and it has two things, status and response message. So we'll simply copy it from login model, and simply these two properties will copy, paste it here, and this will be the status. Status will be boolean, whether it is true or false, and this message will be string property. Okay, we have created one more class here in this response model, and now we have to include using shop dot admin dot services. This we have to include. Why? Because we have created this, inside the services we have admin panel and iAdmin panel. So inside this iAdmin panel we are going to create the method. Okay, so this will be the method syntax. It's a task, it's a thread. So response model will be the return type, and we are going to use shop.data model or custom models, and this login, the parameter which will be passed to this method will be login model. So this login model, what login model will contain all the email ID and password. It will get authenticated and it will return the response back. Let's go in the admin panel. So here it is showing error because we have, in this interface we have declared this method, but it's not implemented in the class. So let's implement interface. Okay, so it is written. We'll remove this admin panel, and simply we can here in this iAdmin panel service we'll have to make it public, and then we can remove this from here. So it's like a admin login. Made it public, still it is showing the error. Okay, now it is gone. So this method we have created admin login, and on this login.razor we have created, we need to create this admin panel service. Here we have to use the interface actually. Instead of using, we have to inject because it's a service. iAdmin service, and here we have to using shop dot admin dot services. Okay, So this admin panel, we have created an instance of this admin panel service, and using that admin panel service dot, we can simply call the login method of the admin panel service, and we can pass the login model. The login model, we have created it here, the same login model which we have defined here, and created a new instance. Once the form is authenticated, on valid submit, if all the validations are satisfied, then it will call the login click, and it will pass the login model filled with all the data to the admin panel method, admin login. So here it is. Now if here we go in this admin panel service, we have not implemented anything as yet. So here we have to write a code to call the API, because this, if we see, this admin panel service is a part of admin shop.admin, and how to call the API from the web part we have already discussed in one of our video. The link is given in the description, you can go through that, but I'll explain it again in this video as well. So here we have to include HTTP client. So here what I have done is, like, I have created an instance of HTTP client, and that I have injected it here in this constructor of this admin panel service class. And this admin login HTTP client.post JSON async, and the return type is response model, and the path will be API admin login. So that will call the API inside the controller. It will go in the admin controller. Here we will create the method for receiving the data at the API end. So that will be a second part. First, let's solve this HTTP client. So for this, we have to simply open the package manager console, and shop.admin is by default the startup project. Here we have to include one library which will make this HTTP client as part of this admin shop.admin part. So for this HTTP client, we have to import this Microsoft ASP.NET Core Blazor.htp client. This library we have to import. So simply click on this, install, copy it, and in the package manager console, set the default project as shop.admin and simply paste and install. So it has successfully installed. Now simply we can use system.net.http and it will start working. Okay. This, let's see whether it is installed or not. Microsoft ASP.NET Core. Instead of this, we have to use Blazor. Okay, so we have included the system.net.http and this library. Now it is able to recognize the admin login. Now simply we have to create one method at the API end. What we have done is, like, we have worked on the login page, the design part, and the method. On this login click, we are calling one method which is part of the admin panel service, and that service will call the API /admin/admin login. So this is part of the API. In this API, we have two controllers, admin and user controller, and in the admin controller, we have to create that method which will receive the parameter because it's a post method. So inside this controller, admin controller will create the required methods. So here, and this login model, we have to use custom models. So for this login model, we have imported this data models dot custom models, and for this environment, this is actually required for uploading the photo images of the products and categories which is required in the later stage. Then we have this iAdmin service. So for this we have to include the shop.logic. In that we have to create the iAdmin service. Add new class and make it public. And let's add a class for that. It's the same pattern which we have used in the admin panel user interface. Let's make it iAdmin service. Okay, simple classes and interface. And if we go in the admin controller, here we simply have to inherit that. So using shop.logic service. So this is the URL, the namespace. Now here inside the admin service, we have to create admin login. So here we have to, in this admin service and iAdmin service, we have to create that method. So here we'll simply, we have created this admin login. Let's import the required namespace, shop.datamodels. So here in this shop.logic, in the dependencies, we don't have anything. So we have to add project reference, shop.datamodels, and save it. So here we can add using shop.datamodel custom model. Very simple method which will receive the model, and after authentication it will send the response back. So here in this admin service we simply have to implement interface. Simple, very simple. So here for time being, response model equal to new response model, and simply return the response model. The status equal to false, and the message will be, for timing, let's add the messages incorrect id/password. A very simple method. No interaction with database. We simply have to call this method and it will return the response. The database part will add a little bit later. So all the flow, so in this shop.model we have this login page. On this login page it will call the, so here we have to receive the response where response equal to if response dot status is true, so we have to make it as async. Async task and write as await. Okay, if the status is true, then it will show the message, it will progress further, else this alert message will be equal to the response dot message. Okay, so Here we have declared this navigation bar, so we'll make use out of nav dot navigate to into reference slash, then we have, okay, only slash. Okay, so if it is successful, then it will go to the index page. If it is not, then it will show the ID password. But what we have done is, in the admin panel service, we have in the admin service, we have simply shown the message as incorrect ID password just to test the flow. Let's start the, let's close everything and click on start. So by default, the index page is loaded. We'll fix that. So this will let load cannot provide, and there is no registered service. Okay, so we have created the service, but we have not registered it. So we need to register the service. Register the service, we have to go in the startup.cs, and here we have to simply add this part, and let's import the namespace. Okay, and we have to give the API path here, whatever API path is there. Let's run it once to get the path. So this is the API port number and all. Let's stop it and put it here. Let's Now let's run it again. And let's open the login page. So here we can see the login page. Click on it. It will ask for the email ID and password. So let's test it. These are all dummy records. Let's click on click create login. And here we have an error. So let's press F12 and see what the error is in the console. Internal server error. Some error it has shown. Let's see what the error is. So here we are simply calling the login method. Then we go to the implementation API admin login. Okay, so admin login is there. Then it will go to the API admin controller. It will call admin login using API. And from the admin login, it will go to the implementation. This one, it will return the response model. Everything looks fine. Simply, we have to put a breakpoint then. Put a breakpoint here in the admin panel service as well and start. So we have this one API slash admin slash login of 11. It's not going further. It's showing it's failing in the admin panel service itself. So what could be the error? This is the port number. It seems correct. Give 1 minute. So for the error which we are getting is like it's not returning anything. So we are not able to connect the admin panel UI to the API. So for that, I think we have to inject our service here. So this is the iAdmin service which we have created in the logic layer. Simply we have injected it here in the configure service. The same thing we did for the iAdmin panel service in the startup of the shop.admin panel. So let's run it now. Okay, now it's able to hit the admin controller. Let's press F11. It has come till here. Let's see the login model. It is having the email ID and the password. It is returning false, which we expect, and it is showing the message incorrect ID password. So the entire flow has been established from the login page till the service. So let's stop it and close the tabs. Now simply let's close all the tabs, and now what we have to do is we have to create the database table so that we can store the ID password. So let's open SQL Server 2018, or whichever version you have, you can open it, and let's click on connect. Inside the databases, let's create a new database and name is that shopping cart DB. Click on OK, and inside this right click on new query. Here we are going to create a new table. So here we simply have to write this simple table with ID as the primary key, incrementing by 1, name, email ID, password, last login created and updated on. Let's create it, execute, and here let's refresh it. So here we have this one table, admin info. Now for that we have to generate the models. So this is like the custom models, and here we have the auto generated models which we can use as a part of entity framework to connect with our database. So for that we have to set this data model as the startup project, and simply click on package manager console. Here select data models. Here we have to simply execute this statement. This is the statement: scaffold db context server, the db server name which we are using to log in whenever we click on this disconnect and connect. So this is the server name, and the next part is the database name, trusted connection true, and this Microsoft Entity Framework core SQL Server. And we have to write the output directory as models by force. By force means if the class or table already exists, then it will just simply delete it and create it. But when we are running it, we are getting these errors because we have not included this Microsoft SQL Server. So for that we have to simply add manage NuGet packages, and this one tools, 3 packages we have to install. Whatever process we are doing, we have already created a separate video for it. You can use that one also to understand it. SQL Server install, and this we have installed. And this one Microsoft.Entity Framework core, this 3 we have to install. Okay, so all the three libraries have been installed in this data model. Now let's run the command again. Enter. Build has succeed. Is not recognized as a name. You're still getting the error. Okay, so what we have done is like to fix this error, simply have restarted Visual Studio, and after that we have run this command. So it has worked perfectly now. Simply have to comment off this line. So what has happened after running the command is like it has created this shopping cart db context and admin info.cs, these two classes. So inside this shopping cart db context we have to simply comment off this warning sign. That's it. And once this is created, so what it has created a replica of this admin info table. Now we have to go in the logic part, and here simply we have to create a object of shopping cart db context. So here simply we are creating shopping cart db context and using this reference. So this db context is nothing but an object of the database connection. So here if we write where data equal to simply db context dot, then we can get the table admin info, and on that table we can write the query. But here we are not able to find the query because we haven't installed entity framework. So for that, right click on the logic part and add manage NuGet packages and browse and Microsoft Entity Framework Core and simply install it. Okay, so here we can write uncomment this now dot to list. Still it is not showing. Let's build the project once. Okay, so we have db context. On db context we have admin infos. Okay, so the table is already there. And in the dependencies we have the Microsoft Entity Framework as well. Okay, we have to use this system.linkQ, where x dot, so we get all the email ID equal to login model dot email ID, and the x dot password equal to login model dot password. So this way we can write the queries on the DB context and all the tables which we have created in the database. So now we'll just discuss the logic which needs to be added in the admin login authentication method. So we'll just remove this all, the new logic. So here what we have done is like we have created this DB context, and inside this we have added the try catch, and here we have DB context dot where email is equal to this. If the email ID doesn't exist, then we have to simply send the messages email not registered, please check your email ID. And if the email is there but the password is wrong, if the password is correct, then we simply have to get the user ID, name and email, all this as a pipe separated by this pipe. If the password is correct, then we simply have to show your password is incorrect. So let's go in the table and add few details. Name, demo, admin, demo@gmail.com, demo123. It's okay. Select star from admin info. So we have the demo admin, demo@gmail, password is demo. Okay. So let's put a breakpoint here and run it. So before running, let's make the properties shop multiple, apply and OK, and run it. Okay, so error has occurred. Let's check it. The build is successful. So what I think what we are missing is like in this API, we have to add the DB context as well. So here we have to add shopping cart DB context. Okay, and this DB connection we have to, instead of being hard coded here in the DB context, we have to comment it off here and move it in the here in this JSON file. And let's name it as shopping cart DB. Okay, so what we have done is like we have added, we have in the shopping cart.db context, we have commented the hard coded string and the connection string and simply moved it here in this application setting.json. Let's run it. Hopefully it should run. Okay, the API is launched, and here let's click on login. So it has come here, it has come here. So get So here if you see the data is null, that means the email ID admin@gmail doesn't exist. So it is returning not registered. So let's try with demo. Click on login, continue, F10, press F10. Here the data is returned, but ID is correct, but the password, let's check the password. The password is wrong. The correct password is demo, and what we have entered is test. So it is returning, continue, password is correct. Now let's add demo and click on login, continue, F10. Now it is going inside, status is true, and the message is to/demo admin slash, like the ID of the administrator, the name, and the email ID. Click on continue. Now, as per the code with what we have written, it is redirected to the slash page, which is the home page. So we have covered the entire login process. Next time we'll add, no, next video, what we will cover is like this pages. Here we have the login.razor. So here, like, simply after the authentication, we are redirecting the user to the login, the dashboard slash page, which is nothing but the index.razor, this one, and welcome to our new app. But what we want is like whenever we run this site, what we get is like we get the, instead of the login page, we get the default page, the index page. We don't want that. And the side menu and all that is gone. So that will be covering in the next video. Hopefully you like the video, and if you have any doubt, you can just put a comment and just follow this steps properly so that you don't get any problem. And in case you get any problem, you can comment, and I'll try my best to fix it. Okay, see you in the next video.